The history of Korea spans thousands of years, filled with dynasties, invasions, cultural achievements, and political struggles that have shaped the peninsula into what it is today. To understand Korea's modern identity, we must look at its rich past from its legendary beginnings in ancient times to the rise of its current division between North and South. The earliest known history of Korea begins with the legendary foundation of Gojoseon, the first Korean kingdom. According to myth, Dangun Wangjeom, the son of a bear-turned woman and a god, founded Gojoseon in 2333 BCE. This kingdom, located in what is now North Korea, is considered the start of Korean civilization. While the tale of Dangun is part myth, it is also rooted in the real historical rise of the kingdom, which existed for centuries. Gojoseon flourished as a centralized state, developing a system of laws, a distinct culture, and governance. However, in 108 BCE, Gojoseon fell to the Han dynasty of China, who set up their own commanderies in the region. This marked the beginning of a period of fragmentation. As various smaller kingdoms arose across the peninsula, these kingdoms would eventually evolve into the dominant states of the Three Kingdoms period, a time of constant conflict and cultural exchange between Goguryeo, Baekje, and Sheila. Goguryeo, in the northern part of the peninsula, was the first of the three kingdoms to emerge as a dominant force. At its peak, Goguryeo controlled vast territories, including much of Manchuria and parts of northern China. It was a kingdom renowned for its military strength, successfully repelling invasions from China and engaging in conflicts with neighboring powers for centuries. Goguryeo was also famous for its impressive fortresses and tombs, which continue to be of great historical and archaeological interest. To the southwest was Baekje, a kingdom known for its cultural achievements, particularly in the arts, Buddhism, and trade. Baekje was a key player in the spread of Buddhism to Japan, and its influence on Japanese culture and society was profound, especially in the fields of architecture, religious practices, and politics. The kingdom's capital, Hansong modern-day Seoul, became a hub for Buddhist culture and trade during its peak. The smallest of the three kingdoms was Sheila, located in the southeastern part of the peninsula. Despite its initial struggles with its larger neighbors, Sheila eventually emerged victorious through a combination of strategic alliances and military success. The most notable of these alliances was with the Qing dynasty of China, which helped Sheila defeat both Goguryeo and Baekje by 668 CE, uniting the Korean peninsula under its rule. Following this victory, the unified Sheila dynasty began its reign over a unified Korea. From 668 to 935 CE, the Sheila kingdom oversaw a period of cultural flourishing, particularly in the arts and religion. Buddhism became the state religion and deeply influenced Sheila society. The construction of monumental Buddhist temples and the development of art and architecture during this time, like the Shokaji Aram Grotto and Wangnyangsa Temple, remain highlights of Korean cultural heritage. During this golden age, the Sheila court also embraced Confucianism and Taoism, further enriching its cultural fabric. However, this period of prosperity was short-lived. By the late 9th century, the central authority of Sheila began to crumble due to internal corruption and uprisings. The weakening of the kingdom allowed regional military leaders to seize power, leading to the rise of a new dynasty. In 918 CE, Wang Jian, a general under the Sheila dynasty, established the Goryeo dynasty, which would rule the Korean peninsula for almost 500 years. Goryeo, which gave the modern name Korea, inherited much of Sheila's culture, but also faced challenges from the growing power of China and the Khitan tribes. Despite these external threats, Goryeo became known for its innovations in printing, especially the creation of movable metal type printing, which predates the Gutenberg press by several centuries. The Tripitaka Koreana, a collection of Buddhist scriptures carved onto over 80,000 wooden blocks, was produced during this period and is considered one of the most significant cultural artifacts of Korea. However, the Goryeo dynasty was not without its challenges. One of the most significant was the Mongol invasion in the 13th century. After repeated attacks, Goryeo became a vassal state of the Mongol Empire, which significantly impacted its autonomy. The Mongol period lasted nearly a century, and it was during this time that Goryeo's power waned, and its political structures became increasingly decentralized. The Mongol influence eventually faded, and in 1392, Yi Sungai, a military leader, founded the Joseon dynasty. This dynasty would rule Korea for over 5 centuries, from 1392 to 1897, and is often regarded as the most significant and enduring period in Korean history. The Joseon dynasty established a Confucian state that profoundly shaped Korean society, politics, and culture. Confucian ideals permeated all aspects of daily life, with strict social hierarchies and a focus on education and governance based on moral principles. One of the most important achievements of the Joseon period was the creation of Hangul, the Korean writing system. King Sejong the Great, who ruled from 1418 to 1450, recognized that the Chinese characters used in writing were too difficult for the common people to learn, and he ordered the creation of a simpler, phonetic alphabet that would be accessible to everyone. Hangul was officially introduced in 1446, and it revolutionized literacy and communication in Korea, allowing for a greater spread of knowledge and culture. The Joseon period was also marked by great advancements in the arts, including painting, ceramics, and science. The creation of Joseon porcelain is particularly notable for its simple yet elegant design. Despite its cultural achievements, the dynasty faced constant threats from neighboring countries, especially from Japan and China. The Japanese invasions of Korea, also known as the Imjin War 1592 to 1598, were a particularly destructive period, with the Japanese attempting to invade Korea twice during the late 16th century. The war was marked by remarkable feats of resistance, especially by the naval commander Yi Sun-sen, who successfully repelled the Japanese with his innovative turtle ships. However, by the late 19th century, the Joseon dynasty faced mounting internal and external pressures. Western imperial powers, as well as Japan, began to encroach on Korea's sovereignty. The dynasty struggled to modernize and maintain control, and in 1897, it officially proclaimed the Korean Empire, though this was short-lived. In 1910, Korea was annexed by Japan, marking the beginning of a painful colonial period that lasted until the end of World War II. Under Japanese rule, Korea was subjected to harsh treatment, with its language, culture, and traditions suppressed. The Japanese also exploited Korea's resources for their imperial ambitions, and many Koreans were forced into labor or enlisted in the Japanese military. Despite this, resistance movements emerged, with the March 1st movement of 1919 being one of the most significant uprisings against Japanese rule. Though the movement was crushed by the Japanese, it sparked a continued desire for independence, which would eventually lead to the end of colonial rule. In 1945, with the defeat of Japan in World War II, Korea was liberated. However, the country was divided into two zones of occupation: the Soviet-controlled North and the American-controlled South. This division eventually led to the creation of two separate states: North Korea, under Kim Il-sung, and South Korea, under Syngman Rhee. The tensions between these two states culminated in the outbreak of the Korean War in 1950, a devastating conflict that lasted until 1953. The war ended in an armistice agreement, but no formal peace treaty was signed, leaving the Korean peninsula divided at the Demilitarized Zone (DMZ). Since the end of the Korean War, the two Koreas have followed vastly different paths. South Korea has transformed into one of the world's leading economies and a major cultural force, especially with the global rise of K-pop, K-dramas, and Korean cinema. It is now a democratic society with a highly developed infrastructure and a thriving global economy. On the other hand, North Korea has remained under a strict, totalitarian regime led by the Kim family. The country remains one of the most isolated and secretive in the world, with a heavy military focus and ongoing tensions with South Korea and the international community. The legacy of the Korean War, as well as North Korea's nuclear weapons program, continues to shape global geopolitics today. Despite decades of division, there is still a strong desire among many Koreans for reunification. The shared history and cultural ties of the two Koreas remain powerful symbols of the enduring hope for peace and unity on the Korean peninsula. Korea's history is one of remarkable resilience and cultural achievement, from its ancient kingdoms and conflicts to its modern-day challenges and triumphs. Whether through periods of war, foreign occupation, or political division, the Korean people have consistently shown their determination to preserve their identity and heritage, ensuring that the legacy of Korea continues to shape the world today.